Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Chair and Vice Chair of Harlow Council.
Welcome councillors, members of the public and those who are watching us online. Now before we start this annual council, we now have got another set of tasks that we have to fulfil. Councillor Danny Purton has died since the last full council, and again could I ask you to remain standing while we do a minute's silence for Danny, for his partner Maeve and the family. Thank you. Sit down, and Councillor Mike Andrews and Councillor Bob Davies are going to say a few words about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. Danny was known to the old council as somebody who cared very much for Harlow. His career was one that he started with the Harlow Development Corporation, and when the Development Corporation was wound up, he became the Chief Highways Engineer for Harlow Council through the 80s, 90s until his retirement in about 2005. The job he was actually so dedicated to that he would regale people with tales of what Harlow concrete was, because Harlow concrete was very special to him, because Harlow concrete was a very special mix, and he made sure that every developer who laid roads in Harlow got it right. More recently, when Danny was elected to Harlow Council, he took on the environment portfolio holder and was very, very dedicated to the town. One of his main actions was to actually agree a local plan that in fact took a lot of dedicated work with many individuals, with Danny leading to the fore. He advanced the plan, he negotiated very well with all the other local authorities, and I believe it's the only authority that actually got it locally, that got its local plan agreed so rapidly. In fact, one or two neighbouring local authorities are still scraping around trying to get their local plan together. He was also very concerned about the way in which people lived in this town, and he was horrified when legislation was changed to allow people to live in offices. In fact, he made national headlines when he talked about Terminus House being a human warehouse. Despicable living conditions in Terminus House and many other places that we as a local authority have complained long and loud collectively against. And Danny once again led from the fore. And in terms of his vision for Harlow was very, very strong indeed. And although controversial recently in regards to public transport, Danny was determined to actually have Harlow as a 21st century town. He wanted to actually see a public transport system. He was alarmed when people actually called Harlow a small town, members of the opposition making reference to Harlow being a small town. He had big ambitions for Harlow, and hopefully they will actually be carried on. Our sympathies, obviously, as we've mentioned, go out to Maeve and her children, and the funeral is tomorrow, sadly restricted to 55 people. but I know people will be gathering at the crematorium gates to pay respects as well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Downs. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make this fairly brief. I understand that Joni Hill was going to talk about Danny tomorrow. I'll give him a few notes of my relationship with Danny. Not many of you know this, and obviously the new council wouldn't even know him, I suppose. Apart from Danny liking trams, as you know, he's also keen on motorbikes. So about 20 years ago, we decided to travel all together. We were so green then that we tied a ribbon to our handlebars to remind us what side of the road we should be on. Danny introduced me to different countries, customs, and basically how to get on the road. We started off on medium power motorbikes and ended up driving superbikes that take 160 miles an hour, but we never went above 40. We visited countries like Belgium, Germany, Austria, Czech Republic and Italy. And all I really want to do is to thank Danny for introducing me to other lands, customs, some of the food I didn't like, but he had no problem eating anything in front of him. So I really going to miss it, and I think he really helped me and introduced me to a different way of life. So thank you, Danny.
I'd also like to, at this stage, commiserate with all the councillors that are no longer with us, but welcome in the new councillors, and I know that you are going to contribute to the council in a very positive way. Okay, we'll now come on to item 2, apologies for absence. Do we have any? Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. From the Labour Group, we have Councillor Eugenie Harvey and Councillor John Strachan.
Thank you. Okay, presume there are no more. Okay, declarations of interest, item 3. Do we have any? No, right, thank you. Item 4, minutes on pages 4 to 14 of 1st of April. To agree those?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Right, now the communications from the chair. The first thing I'd like to say is that it's a very welcome act now that we are actually in the council chamber. Because when we had the annual council last year on Zoom, which I was beginning to get used to, I thought naively at the time, like a lot of us did, that by January of this year we would be back in the chamber for regular meetings and full council, but that didn't happen. And but I'm very thankful that we're all together on a personal level and that we can go forward on that side. So it has been a different year with lots of things going on, but not from where I'm sitting. I've had 3 bubble picnic events in the summer of 2020. My own I had at the Harlow Museum Garden, and the temperatures were unbelievably hot, but we had a good time. 9 of us were in different bubbles around the garden. We had pictures taken, and it was fantastic, you know, getting back together with mayors and chairs. Then we had one at Epping Forest, in that area, and Broxbourne as well. We had another bubble picnic there. So I have been able to meet up with mayors and chairs physically, but we then went on Zoom with the chair of Chelmsford and had a coffee and a chat, and we were looking back, and that was in the summer as well, and we were thinking what we could be doing going forward as mayors and chairs, because they also thought we would be out quicker than we were, and what we had not experienced, because we hadn't been doing anything really active from the May or the April when we come into service. Now in December, that was that. In December I attended 2 carol services over one weekend, the one on the Saturday and the one on the Sunday, and it was wonderful. I was out, I was attending the carol services, I had a fantastic time, but then it stopped. I went on to virtual. Now I did lots of recording on virtual. The first one, again, was last summer when it was the National Play Day, and everyone, including the families, came online, and they did it within the day. And I think the family groups across the country did enjoy it, but they weren't down at the town park where they should have been. Then I did virtual recordings for the Black History Day, Remembrance Sunday, a Labour East, by myself at Netswell Cross. But that was recorded. I did the Armed Forces Day, but that was outside the Civic Centre. So I was able to again catch up with some of the veterans and made a speech there. Then we had the National Day of Reflection in March, which again I did on the virtual time. Now last Saturday I went to the Network Cross, because it's the 100th anniversary of the Royal British Legion. And again, it was very lovely to be with the veterans again. But sadly, some of those have died within this year. And not just the veterans, but some of their wives as well. So that was good and bad, you know. And the last event that I went to, before the veterans, was at Queensgate, and I don't know if any of you have been down there yet, Tim Horton. The Canadian, now that was fantastic. I have to be honest, it was not a problem going in there. We went on Tuesday before they had the opening and I understand there's been a lot of traffic down there, you know. Because I've been in Canada, I was going back home to go and that's it's not great if you want to die. It's certainly not a great place. But for me, I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and you know, I do recommend it, but not much of it, to be honest, because you know it is not something you should be exercising. Okay, right. So that's the communication I've got from the chair, and I now want to come on to the Civic Awards. First of all, the Civic Awards this year, last year it came in, it was the first time we had the public coming in to the Civic Awards nominating people. And I must say, Bob, Shona, Chris and I, as the panel, we had a very, very difficult time because there's a lot of the public that nominated different organisations and people, and it was really hard to try and pin them down. But we did, and we were so thankful that they gave the. Now I gave the awards out yesterday and this morning because of course they couldn't come to the training, which they would normally have done. You know, I find that a sad thing that we can't have them in here with the families, seeing them get those awards. But again, we did it that way because we had to. And I'd like to say also that Changing Lives had an award in 2020, and Neela had an award in 2019, because some of the nominations that came in was for Changing Lives in Neela, but they had them, so I wanted to announce that tonight so the public will find that one out as well. Now, we have got you've all got one on your table, we've got the award presentation, and I will go through with the councillors that are on the panel, and when it comes to your name, I'll call you out, and will you then please do the appropriate nomination and the award. Okay, now the first one is for me, and it's David Taylor. David's followed by many people on Facebook. He was and still is a skinhead and dresses in all the attire. For the last year or so, David has given his all to St Mary Magdalene Church. He spent many a day cutting the grass in the graveyard, making it look lovely again. He and a few other volunteers have even cleared the church roof of moss. Due to his hard work, he is making it possible for the church to hold a fete again after several years of not being able to. He does all this whilst looking after his wife. He is very dedicated and worthy of this award, and it was my pleasure yesterday to give that award to David and then have the pictures taken, which will also go online. Right, the next one is the volunteers at Harlow, ethnic minority, and Councillor Davis, would you do that one, please?
The volunteers at Harlow Ethnic Minority Umbrella. The volunteers deserve to be recognised as they help various communities in our town. They assist residents with essential support, general housing advice, completing paperwork, providing clothing and assisting with transportation to attend hospital appointments. They go above and beyond in supporting vulnerable and shielding parents, or patients, He has grown into a formidable yet unassuming team, serving Harlow in a very tangible and effective ways. It is therefore my pleasure to award the volunteers of Harlow Ethnic Minority Umbrella a Civic Award for their contribution to the community. Thank you.
Councillor Davis. Councillor Shirley Robinson, that will be for Nichelle.
My mic's not working, you're going to have to cope with my voice. I should be loud enough.
So Nishal started his community advocacy officially at the age of 13 as a Harlow youth counsellor, working to give the youth of Harlow a voice that would be heard at the highest levels of the town. During 6 years in office, he led conversations with town dignitaries on how to improve provisions and increase opportunities. During this time, Nishal represented Harlow's youth on many forums and committees, and was seen as the ideal point of contact by many organisations to get a real insight into young people's needs and wishes. He was also elected as the student governor of Harlow College, where he attended as a student. He was an advocate for young people and the local community, making a major difference on the college's board. In 2014, he was asked by the college to attend the One Young World Summit, representing the UK alongside 1,000 young people from across the globe who wanted to make a change in their societies. Attending this summit led to one of his biggest achievements so far. He also sat on the Waterhouse Moor Residents Association as the founding and first vice chairman, so he could bring young people into the association's conversation, as they are future leaders of the town and areas. Currently he works with Harlow Police as a police support volunteer and sits on their independent advisory group representing Hindus in the local community to ensure they are fairly represented. He founded and coordinates the Big Up #BigUpHarlow campaign. This social media campaign promotes the goodness of Harlow and is one of Nishal's biggest accomplishments. The campaign started in 2014 to combat the negative perception that people have of the town. Big Up Harlow is supported by many local dignitaries and organisations. From a community point of view, the campaign is growing and becoming self-led as the people of Harlow post more and more good things about the town without any prompting. His promotion has led the town being appreciated by more people. It is therefore my pleasure to award him with a Civic Award for his contribution to the community. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Smith, you are doing Susan Mackenzie. Thank you.
Susan is the unit leader of the Nursing Cadet Division of St John's Ambulance Harlow. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, she has continued to work for St John and throughout, has maintained contact with the cadets whilst the unit is unable to meet face to face. She is now running an online meeting night to keep the cadets involved. Before Christmas, she worked to become a trainer, qualified to teach the public recruited St John's volunteer vaccinators, and has been employed as a trainer at the Stansted Airport Radisson Blue Hypercentre. She has also encouraged the cadets to help out at the Hypercentre, giving them the opportunity to gain evidence for their Duke of Edinburgh Award. It is a real pleasure, and it's only a shame that I can't be in person, to award Susan Mackenzie with a Civic Award for her contribution to the community.
Thank you, Councillor. I will read out the one for Princess Alexandra Hospital. All the staff at Princess Alexandra Hospital deserve special recognition for the way they have worked through this last year. It has been a hellish year, and they have put the health of other people before their own health and that of their loved ones. Staff have not been able to see their families or friends, along with doing extra hours under lots of stress to give the best care to all Harlow's population. Although they are physically and mentally exhausted, they continue to work with kindness and empathy for our community. All hospital staff, both clinical and non-clinical, have gone above and beyond to support our town during the COVID pandemic and will continue to do so until it ends and beyond. The heartbreak and trauma of all the staff have had to be endured has been a tremendous weight on them, including losing members of their team and their own loved ones to COVID. Yet they continue to provide the care in our community and with the passion and the dedication that they always have. Every single member of the hospital team deserves recognition and our gratitude. It was therefore my pleasure to give that presentation to Princess Alexandra Hospital and their contribution and commitment to our community. And it was the Cross Keys Netball Council Davis.
Thanks, Chair. Cross Keys Netball Club. Cross Keys has been embedded in the local community since it was established 40 years ago. In addition to being a place of sport, it is also a place of safety and support for club members and supporters of all ages. Success is measured not only by their place in the league tables, but also how much they contribute to the local community, mostly through fundraising initiatives, but also through participation in awareness schemes like Night Not Live that keep our young people safe. The club regularly celebrates the contributions of its volunteers publicly through awards and nominations and privately with positive feedback with small gifts and tokens as appropriate. Based in a relatively small area, the human challenges on many, and the club's ethos is to ensure that money will never be a barrier to participation in sport. To support this endeavour, membership costs are kept to a minimum, trips and travel are subsidised either through fundraising, quizzes, raffles and dances, or through profits from tournaments. It's therefore my pleasure to award Cross Teams Netball Club a Sports and Cultural Civic Award for their contribution and commitment to the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shona Johnson, Harlow Ballet.
Thank you, Chair. Harlow Ballet. Whilst the playhouse has been closed and regular face-to-face lessons haven't been able to take place, Michael and Henrietta have opened up their kitchen to run virtual lessons over Zoom. They recognise the importance of fitness and socialisation and rooting over these strange times. Claire Hickles is one of the main dance teachers at Harlow Ballet. She's also been doing online Zoom classes for all her students, adults and kids. She's also doing volunteer work at Harlow Food Bank and Lister Medical Centre. It is therefore my pleasure to award Harlow Ballet with the Sports and Cultural Civic Award for their contribution and commitment to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Making Steps, Councillor Fitz.
Thank you, Chair. Making Steps have continued to put the needs of their pupils first and foremost. They have worked tirelessly to provide dance classes on Zoom for everyone who belongs to Making Steps, keeping the routine going as much as normal, providing continuous exercise and well-being for all students. Where restrictions allow, Making Steps to ensure that the centre was COVID safe, ensuring all measures were addressed. They arrange master classes with professionals in the industry through Zoom and ran competitions to keep the children engaged. They have even produced a charity single for the Princess Alexandra Hospital with all proceeds going to PAH. They have really kept the health and well-being of the children at the forefront. It is therefore my pleasure, again, it's incredible I can't be in person, to award Making Steps with the Sports and Cultural Civic Award for their contribution and commitment to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. And the last one is, I will read this out for Sarah Jane Marsh. Sarah Jane is a fitness instructor and teaches Zumba and crowd-sized exercise classes. When the first lockdown hit in March 2020, Sarah continued her classes on Zoom for free for the first 12 weeks and was paying for extra costs out of her own pocket. Even now, she charges just enough to be able to pay for the costs. Sarah's commitment to teaching these classes has helped with mental health and well-being. She's kept so many people sane and in these crazy times, not only with her amazing classes, but with her online get-togethers and thoughtful messages. Sarah even still taught the classes when she herself had COVID. Sarah is a real inspiration, and it is my pleasure to give Sarah her Sports and Cultural Civic Award when I saw her yesterday. Okay, that's the end of the Civic Awards, but I'd just like to say that although they're the ones that we chose, all of the people that were there, that were nominated on both Sports and Culture and the community, were all very well deserving of those nominations, but we couldn't do all of them, there were just too many of them. Okay, now I'd like to talk about my charities. I wasn't expecting to make a lot this year because of circumstances and I wasn't able to go out. But I was absolutely thrilled when Lisa told me yesterday that I'd actually raised £8,000. Now this money was raised through donations from people that I was very grateful to get. It was also, the playhouse did their canter and they had the buckets out. So I thought, yes, I'm going to get some, something from this. And bless them, they had the buckets for the first 2 weeks, but then they had to shut down. But I did get money from them, so I'm very grateful. But we also got money for it because of the filming. I don't know if you knew about the filming in the town park and in the town centre, that the film crew were here, and I think actors and actresses were also in Harlow. And of course the council did charge them for it, and that kindly gave some of that money to the charity, so I was extremely grateful for that. So that's, because of that, I was able to give the 2 cheques yesterday for £4,000 each to Harlow Mind and to Peckle, the other charity. Now, I'd like to say on behalf of Harlow Mind that it's part of the West Essex charity. And they have the same name as the National Mind, but that is another charity. Rarely do Harlow Mind receive monies from the National Mind. Sadly, though it's a regular occurrence that they don't receive money from the National Mind. and they do their own fundraising, and as I say, they were very grateful for the 4,000 that I gave them. If people wanted to actually donate locally to mine, then it would be going to the mine of West Essex. Because if you did it to mine itself, that would go national. It would not go local, which I would hope that you would be doing it locally. And as you can imagine, in the last year, Harlow Mine have been overwhelmed and have done a tremendous amount of work because of the COVID situation, because there've been children from 8 years old and up, adults of all ages, have all been affected mentally. Whether you're in business, home, wherever you've been. So they've had to hire more staff on to cope with the telephone calls and the IT outlets that they have because of the numbers, and they don't think those numbers are going to go down anytime soon, because now we're coming out gradually. There might be more people that come forward that have got mental issues that they didn't have last year. So they are doing a tremendous job, and we need to support them as much as we can in the coming years. And the other one that I supported and gave £4,000 to was Pepper, the miscarriage and infant death charity. And again, they've had numbers increase this year, because you've had women going into hospital for miscarriages on their own without families, as other patients have done in various walks of life. And that's been stressful, and they've increased their volume of work as well. So if we can remember these two charities, and I'm so thankful, as I said, that we've been able to give them the amount of money we have. Okay. Thank you, councillors. And lastly, from the chair's point of view, I'd like to thank Bob. Bless him, he hasn't done anything as vice chair this year. It's not a year that we've done a couple of things together, haven't we? That we couldn't do the amount of things that you would have done. And I do apologise, and it was that time of year, wasn't it? That
Chair, I hope that's only a half ball then. You drank half of it before you got it.
So I do thank you for being there for me when I needed you. And Lisa, she's been an absolute star. And she has got straws at the bottle outside that I gave her when I came in. She's been at my locker, she always is. So I do thank her, and know that she's going to be fine in the future. Okay, now we come to item 7, which is the election of the Chair of Council and the Declaration of Acceptance. Are there any nominations for that one? Councillor Harlow.
I'd like to propose Councillor Clive Souter, and I'd like to speak as well.
Okay, Councillor, by all means, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I too am happy to be back. This isn't quite the same as sitting in front of a laptop, half dressed. I had to get my trousers specially dry cleaned to come out tonight. I'm proposing Councillor Clive Souter to be chair. Clive moved here in 1957 and could talk for hours about what changes he has seen, and I'm sure older members here have also seen an enormous amount of change in Harlow. But I don't want to look back, I want to look forward, and Clive is quite excited about the changes that are going to come to Harlow in the next few years. We're going to get a new junction on the M11. That's the first junction we've had since 1978, apparently. We're going to get a new hospital. Nobody can remember the new hospital when it was built. That's going to be a £600 hospital that's going to appear. Public Health England are going to come and join us with a huge investment in our town. We're going to have town centre regeneration. We're going to have a new garden town. The first part of that, which is the infrastructure investment to the north of the town, which is the new Stork crossing and the expansion of the existing crossing, £172 million worth, plus the first part of the sustainable transport corridor to the town centre is going to come to the town. So we're going to see massive changes in the coming years. Clive is well qualified to be chair. He's held the role in 2019, it wasn't too long ago, and he's been a councillor for 10 of the last 15 years. So I'm pleased to nominate Clive as the chair for the next municipal year.
Thank you, Councillor Harlow. Do we have a seconder?
I would like to second this.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Okay, so now we come to the part where, right, come up. Okay, then I will go. Yes, we need to agree this, don't we? Okay, are we all agreed with the nomination? Okay, thank you. Right.
Thank you, councillors. It's a pleasure to be back as the chair of the council. I think we've got very exciting times to come, as Councillor Harlow said. But before I want to do it, I want to thank Maggie for all the hard work she did last year in the municipal year, because it must have been very, very difficult for her to get out and meet people like I did. And I'm not being funny. Zoom is horrible. I'm glad that we're actually back in this chamber, so well done, Maggie. As I said, I was born in Harlow in 1957, and I've seen a lot of changes, good, some bad, but I think that we are in the turning circle now for large investments in Harlow, which we deserve. My two charities this year are the Harlow Stroke Support Rehabilitation Centre based at the GPCA and the Dementia Ward at PAH. I'm sure you would agree that they are two very worthwhile charities. And I hope to make as much money as I can with the support of all the councillors. Hopefully I'll be able to beat £12,000 I did 2 years ago. But let's see. It all depends on how COVID comes out. Right, item 8, appointment of the Vice Chair of the Council.
I'd like to propose Maggie Harlow, and I'd like to speak.
Can I have a second, please?
I'd like to second. I'd like to speak on that.
You certainly can.
Thank you, Chair.
Dedicated, compassionate, and kind are the words I'd use to describe Maggie Harlow. Someone who cares a great deal about our town, but more than that, she cares a great deal about the people of our town. I'm delighted to propose Maggie for the position of Vice Chair. You won't be surprised to know it's a position she's done before. I think I can also say to the current Chair that I know she will be a strong support to you, and it will work really, really well together. And I really hope that both of you, in your roles, have the opportunity to do some of the community work, some of the, it's not just cutting ribbons, but you know what I mean, all the things that you've not had the opportunity to do over the last year. So I hope that yourself and Maggie get that opportunity. Thank you.
That's very good.
Yes, and it's nearly 3.5 years since I've been a councillor. Maggie has been either chair or vice chair throughout those years, and she's been proposed to do it yet again. So why should she do it? Well, firstly, because she's good at it, and I think we recognise that across the across the chamber. I mean, I think when talking about one of the things that are going to be coming to the town, in part that's due, in large part that's due to the past administration. And at times the debates have been quite stormy because we haven't always necessarily agreed about the way forward. And Maggie has managed to chair those particular debates with a lot of skill and make certain that we kept in order and that we got on with the business. And I'd like to thank Maggie for that. But also in terms of, as I say, one, she's good at it. Secondly, she wants to do it. And there's, you know, and that shows. And I was speaking to someone today, talking about the way that Maggie goes about her task and the good relationships that she has with this is someone who, in fact, one of the people who received the Civic Award, who would be nameless, but they said how the way that you presented the award in a very gracious way, and they appreciated the work and the skill that goes into that, so that she wants to do it. I think we all want her to do it as well. So again, you know, on more than that, I think the people of Harlow want you to do it. So congratulations, Maggie, and thank you for taking it on yet again.
Welcome, Maggie. Item 9, the election of the leader of the council, and I propose it, please. Councillor Charles.
Chair, I would like to propose Councillor Andrew Johnson saying a brief few words if I may, Chair.
Have we got a second for that? Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Charles.
Well, thank you, Chair. It is my great honour and privilege to propose Councillor Andrew Johnson as the leader of Harlow Council. Andrew has been a councillor for over 20 years, first elected in 1998. He has been part of the civic fabric of this town for many years. Now, of course, Andrew has been leader of the council before, first in joint administration, then as the leader of the first Conservative administration in this town, and soon to be, I very much hope, for the second time, the leader of the Conservative group of Harlow Council and leader of this council authority. Outside of his civic role, Andrew is the head of income for a major university hospitals trust, where he's responsible for the clinical budget. I think that will stand him in good stead for the budget negotiations coming forward as we put forward our stall as a Conservative administration. One of the highest compliments I can pay to Andrew is his resilience, his incredible resilience. Like many in this town, he has been shielding and was only first able to emerge properly at the bank holiday. His determination, his passion for civic traditions in this town, his absolute commitment to every individual that we will represent as an authority in this town is second to none. And he takes up the role with the burning ambition that saw him first elected in 1998. I'm delighted to propose Councillor Andrew Johnson to be leader of this authority.
Councillor Perrin, are you wishing to speak?
I don't think I can put it better than Councillor Charles myself. Congratulations, Andrew. I'm sure you'll have the votes.
Is that agreed, councillors?
Agreed.
Congratulations, Councillor Johnson. Item 10, appointment to the Cabinet. I'll call on the leader to announce his deputy and appointment to the Cabinet.
Thank you, Chair. It is a privilege and honour to be elected to lead this council, and can I also welcome you and your Vice Chair to your respective positions. It's also a pleasure to see representatives from both sides of the chamber on that top table. Chair, the team I am about to appoint have the experience and skills to steer Harlow on the right path to a post-COVID future that puts supporting local businesses, town centre regeneration and strengthening community resilience first. My council will pursue more ways to engage with the community, listening and responding to residents' priorities. It's important also to harness the kindness and community spirit that we all saw during the lockdowns and channel that energy into developing a new vision for our town. Chair, I'm very much looking forward to delivering what will be an ambitious programme of activity to create a better Harlow, one that we can all be proud of. Firstly, Chair, I've decided to cut the cost of Cabinet by creating one less portfolio than the Council has had previously. This will, of course, help our new Council honour its pledge to cut council tax. It gives me huge pleasure to name Councillor Joel Charles as Deputy Leader of the Council. Joel is both a rock of support and great advice to me, and his experience in both the health and social care charitable sector and now as Director of Policy, Communications and Public Affairs for the UK's largest employer-owned provider of employability, skills and justice services, proves his deep-rooted social values at heart. He has the perfect blend of skills and knowledge to focus on the community's recovery from COVID-19, promoting leisure and culture in the town, developing a more robust community safety strategy, and working with faith groups and making Harlow a generally better place to live as the new portfolio holder for community resilience. Councillor Russell Perrin, having led for this group on finance in opposition and consistently shown how council tax cuts and freezes can be made with no loss of frontline services, is my first pick as the new Chancellor of Harlow, the portfolio holder for finance and governance. Council tax will be his first key priority in moving an urgent budget to reverse the council tax rise that the previous administration made. But I also want him to work with local businesses to ensure they are supported by our new pro-business council. And of course, he has the important responsibility of shepherding the council's finances to enable this administration to invest in achieving the people's priorities. Chair, we promised during the election Harlow Homes for Harlow Families with a new council house building programme and also rebuilding trust with tenants and leaseholders. This work will be overseen by Councillor Simon Carter as the new Cabinet Member for Housing. His utterly forensic mind and detailed knowledge of local government regulations will be a huge benefit to this administration, and I cannot wait to see him putting a spade into the ground of our new house building programme. Chair, for too many years it's felt that regeneration of the town centre and the neighbourhoods has been on the back burner, but this is set to change with the incoming Cabinet Member for Regeneration, Councillor Dan Swords. He's spent the last 2.5 years working at Westminster with our great MP Robert Halfon, and he will now oversee the biggest programme of regeneration since this town was built. With Harlow's unique position and the new and many business growth opportunities, including the Harlow-Gilston Garden Town, the UK Innovation Corridor, the Central Line to the south, hopefully Crossrail 2 coming in, the West Anglia Main Line to be twin-tracked, and the M11 up to Stansted Airport, we are in the perfect opportunity, the perfect position for growth. And Councillor Mike Hardwell will take charge of Harlow's strategic growth opportunities as the incoming Cabinet Member for Strategic Growth. Councillor Alistair Gunn is used to working at Westminster, successfully navigating both complex local and national government policy and constituency issues. With a passion for the environment, I've asked him to quite literally clean up the bin collection mess in this town and work with HTS to restore pride in Harlow by cleaning up our streets. He will also be leading Council's very important work on tackling climate change. And finally, Chair, at the forefront of my mind is the need to get on with Harlow's economic recovery and build a town that's fit for not just current but future generations. And that is why, as leader, I will focus a portfolio myself of economic recovery. Now is the time to work together to seize the opportunities that will build a lasting legacy of growth, inward investment and shared prosperity for Harlow. Chair, it is a pleasure and honour to move my cabinet.
Items 11, 12, 13 and 14, can we agree these on block?
Chair, happy to propose that. Happy to second that.
Fine. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Matters of urgent business, there are none. The council meeting is closed.